Hello and welcome to the World Wonders podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Amanda, and we're your hosts.
And today we're going on a road trip. So where are we going, Amanda?
Well, we're currently driving to Athens in Georgia, or Athens in Greece, either or.
Same direction, but probably won't be very successful.
Yeah, so we're eventually headed to the Georgia Guidestones, which are like the Stonehenge of Georgia, but we're going to make a stop in Athens first. And it's kind of interesting because Georgia actually has a Rome as well as an Athens, so I'm not too sure on the history of that.
And there's also a Carthage as well.
Oh, really?
So there isn't actually a Carthage in Georgia, and the Georgia Guidestones might actually not be the Stonehenge of Georgia either. What are the Georgia Guidestones?
So they are 4 stones?
I don't
know either.
Okay.
There's some stones with some words written on them in different languages, and they're kind of in the middle of a field, and they've been referred to as Georgia's version of Stonehenge.
And we kind of continued on like that for a few minutes, guessing at what the Georgia Guidestones are, because we really didn't know anything. But now that we're here in the future,
we'll give you a more accurate description as to what they are. The guesses get a little bit embarrassing, so we'll just save you that. So, what are the Georgia Guidestones, now that you've been future Ryan?
So the best way for you to figure out what they are is to go check out a photo, but they are four really big granite slabs that are 20 feet tall, maybe 4 feet wide, and then one big granite column in the middle. The slabs are aligned in kind of as if they're in a paddle wheel on a steamboat, and then there's one piece on top. And on each of the 4 slabs, there's a language on each side that has the rules for how to have a prosperous civilization.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up pretty accurately.
And they were put there in the early 80s, and no one knows who paid for them and really what the motivations were. So it's a mystery.
Yeah.
And that's really why we went. We heard that, there's some stones out somewhere that you can go check out.
Yeah, and the Georgia Guidestones are approximately 2 hours east of Atlanta. So we set out on a road trip heading east of Atlanta with basically little to no understanding of what exactly the Georgia Guidestones are. And on our way to the Georgia Guidestones, we stopped in Athens for a little bit of a break from driving, and then also to have some lunch. So that's about an hour east of Atlanta, and we'll check in with you there.
So we're just leaving Athens, and we're on our way to the final approach. On our way to the final approach. I think we're still like 45 minutes away.
Yes, according to my Google Maps, we are 50 minutes away from the Georgia Guidestones.
Georgia Guidestones.
We just stopped in Athens, though, as Ryan said. And Athens is the home to the University of Georgia. And so it's kind of a cool little college town, and I didn't really know anything about it, but it seems like a pretty funky little place to live. What do you think? What are your impressions of Athens?
Yeah, it's nice. I feel like there's some degree of, like, once you've seen a couple college towns in the U.S., you've kind of seen them all in some way.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about visiting the Georgia Guidestones? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing something new in Georgia and checking out some of the historical aspects of Georgia, and I'm also intrigued by this.
I don't know if there is any historical significance to the Georgia Guidestones.
Well, maybe there is. I'm looking forward to going to see something that's been left behind by people, and they don't really know how it got there. I think that's a pretty interesting thing.
So you think the fact that it's intriguing is really the value in something like this?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to get out of Atlanta for the day and to see some of the countryside and check out some of the smaller towns that surround the massive city that we now call home. But I think mostly I'm interested in kind of the adventure and just seeing something new. Kind of intrigued by this idea that it's like the Georgia's version of Stonehenge. How are you feeling?
So I don't know if it's Georgia's version of Stonehenge, because I don't think Stonehenge has instructions for the post-apocalyptic
Okay, well that's what
society.
that's what Wikipedia describes
Other than
it
they're
as,
just
so.
big stones in Georgia.
Okay, well how would you describe them then, if that's not how you would describe them?
It's,
Some big stones?
some big stones.
I think though it's kind of the same idea, right? It's like a bunch of stones left in a field.
So you've been to Stonehenge. What's the idea behind Stonehenge?
So Stonehenge was actually closed when I went there, so I only saw it from a distance and I wasn't able to go in and actually learn much about it. But my understanding of it is that it was just like this rock formation that was left in the middle of nowhere. So I guess it doesn't provide any sort of like post-apocalyptic guidance to anyone. That's, I guess, the major difference, but it's pretty similar in the fact that it's these massive rock formations that have just been left in a field and nobody really knows where they came from or who left them there.
Yeah, except so the Georgia Guidestones are from like the 80s.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought they were way older than that.
Oh, okay, that probably explains why you're...
But Wikipedia, so all I know about the Georgia Guidestones is what I've read on Wikipedia. I clearly missed when they were left behind, but it says, like, the Georgia Guidestones, like, Georgia's version of Stonehenge. That's what it refers to it as. That's why I'm referring to it as that. I actually haven't seen it, so I really have no idea what it's like.
So once I figured out that the Georgia Guidestones weren't actually old and are not really the Stonehenge of Georgia, we began talking about a few other things in regards to the Georgia Guidestones. And we were getting pretty close to the stones at this point. We were only a few miles away, driving on a pretty straight road in a pretty flat area. There were some rolling hills off in the distance, but they were pretty far from us. And in general, it was pretty flat, a lot of farmers' fields, a lot of cows. And this highway per se was just one lane in either direction. And it's fall right now in Georgia, so the leaves are all changing. Things are yellow and red, and there's still even some green, which is pretty cool coming from a place that already has snow. And we were kind of just taking it all in as we discussed what interested us in visiting the Georgia Guidestones and what would interest other people while visiting them.
So the reasons I'm interested are it's kind of weird, which makes it a little bit intriguing. It's like within day trip distance from Atlanta, so you can like get out of the city and go to it. And then also because I was like, oh, maybe that could make a good podcast episode if we drive out to these Georgia Guidestones.
It's a good motivation for it.
But I think there's something funny about how if you just do like absurd things, it kind of makes people interested. Because people always look for meaning behind things, even when there isn't any meaning.
Yeah.
So something I've always wanted to do if I was like really wealthy would be to just make like maybe random ad campaigns that are just confusing and don't actually have any meaning.
I thought you were going to say something about making like a giant statue of yourself.
Yeah, that too. Something like, or maybe a statue of something that's just random. Like, it's like a large blob. And then people will try to like draw meaning, like, oh, this is a representation of the universe.
Through the eyes of Ryan A. Ferguson.
But it's really just like a blob of metal.
You're probably getting tired of Ryan talking about this blob creation that he's going to make in the future. So we're going to cut ahead to what makes the Georgia Guidestones a popular tourist attraction.
I feel like if the mystery wasn't there, they'd probably be less popular. Like if it was like, Fred, somebody or other, put them on his property, and the 8 rules, or whatever, how many guide rules there are on the stones, came from this book. like if it was all straightforward, it's less intriguing.
Yeah.
But since you don't know who put them there, or
like
why
why.
they are there, or where these ideas came from, that makes it have a bit more of an allure.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's got sort of this like mysteriousness around it, which is pretty cool.
So we came out of a little woody area, turned right, and off in the distance you could see the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones.
Are you practicing your southern accent?
No. But yeah, I remember you weren't quite impressed when you got the first look at them.
Yeah, my first thought was that they were smaller than I had expected them to be. What was sort of your impression of them at first?
They were exactly the same as I expected them to be. I didn't really know exactly what like the situation would be. Like if they would be like you'd maybe have a sign and you'd drive down some parkway and then you would be out there. But it's kind of you just turn off the road. There's a little gravel parking lot. You're on like kind of a hill crest. Get out of your car and you're at the Georgia Guidestones. So after driving through the Georgia countryside for an hour, you reach a point that doesn't really look like much, and then take a turn, and you can see these big slabs of granite just kind of on the side of the road. It's a high point, apparently the highest point in the county.
The county? Not
Which
the
is-
state, though, right?
Yeah, it's like a big fish, small pond type scenario. But so from this point, you can see quite a ways into the distance. Mm-hmm. Pretty flat area. Yeah, you're in a field that looks just kind of like any other farmer's field, except there are really big stone slabs. And it kind of looks like, if you've ever seen like the paddle wheel on like a steamship, that's kind of the formation these stones are in. So there's 4 really big granite slabs, and then one column in the middle with a slab on top of all of them. Mm-hmm. And then on each side, there is a different language. So there's English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi,
Arabic.
Hebrew, Russian, Arabic,
Chinese.
and Chinese. And they go through the rules of society, I guess. So, do you know the backstory, or do you want me to explain the backstory?
No, I couldn't read the slab that had the backstory.
So I guess in the 70s, some guy under the pseudonym Mr. Christian comes to a granite company to commission the Georgia Guidestones. He wants these big granite slabs of stone made, and he's this guy who works for a bank who's been dealing with the actual person who wants these made. So the person who wants this made has found an intermediary so that the group of people can stay anonymous. Pays for this to get made. They find this spot kind of in the middle of nowhere on a farmer's field in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. And it is a little bit weird how if you're making these stones that have lessons for people of the future, wouldn't you want to put them in somewhere that has like a decent population base? I guess so. Maybe you think that all the cities will be like the first places to go.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't really considered that before, but it does make a little bit of sense. I guess this person was kind of thinking that, it's the apocalypse and all the cities have been destroyed and somebody's going to find this at some point.
Yeah, and you just need to put it somewhere.
One thing I was thinking about the other day is that it's for this post-apocalyptic future, and they've put it in the 8 major languages of the world. But is the next species going to speak one of these 8 languages?
Well, I mean, so you obviously don't know the next species. What are you talking about?
Like something that's after humans. Or even if it's like
it's
another...
for humans after the breakdown of society.
Yeah, but what if there's no more humans and there's there's a new society of humans?
They're obviously betting on there being humans.
Okay, yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, no, it's a valid point. That's why I think he went with 8 languages, because he's like, I got to play it safe. 8 languages those languages probably cover
the majority of the population.
It's like, 6 billion people, 5 billion people. So it's like, playing it safe.
Yeah.
So while we were there, a couple other people showed up, 2 cars, 3 people.
Yeah, so it's not...
It was like a rainy day at the end of October, so I imagine it does get quite busy in the summer.
Yeah, especially on a Saturday. I mean, we went on a Sunday afternoon, and there were a few people there on a rainy day, like we've said. So we spent about 10 minutes kind of walking around and learning a little bit about the Georgia Guidestones and exploring the small area.
Yeah, and then we did a little recap. So we took some nifty photos, and now our Georgia Guidestones trip is concluding.
It is, yeah.
How do you feel about your time at the Georgia Guidestones?
I feel like the panoramic photos that were silly that we took was the highlight of my trip. But no, I feel good. I think it was nice to experience the countryside and somewhere new in Georgia. It's cool to see this sort of mysterious historic thing that's in the state that we're currently living in.
So the thing for me is I'm just like not that... It's kind of like, it's kind of interesting, but not that interesting, you know? It kind of has this quality of like... It's like, well, this seems just kind of a little bit like a bit of a waste of time, you know? And effort.
Yeah. Yeah, we made the 2-hour effort each way to get here.
No, not for us.
No, I know, in terms of somebody like leaving it here. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I kind of am left with this feeling of like, yeah, it's like kind of cool, but like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And this whole like time capsule without a year on it just kind of confuses me. Is somebody planning to come engrave that in as a comet shoots towards the Earth, or before somebody explodes a nuclear bomb that blows up the Earth? Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I feel like if there was a really cool granite sculpture here, that would be more interesting.
I don't know. I feel like the stones are like pretty impressive. Like the fact that they engraved them all in like all these languages into granite is pretty cool.
And
I'm not impressed with it.
Yeah, really big granite slabs with engravings is pretty cool. The different languages are nifty to look at. It's all astronomically aligned. I wonder if this is how people felt about like artifacts back when they were originally made. So this is 20 years old, so we're like, whatever. But maybe 3,000 years from now, this will be the most popular thing in America because it'll be 3,000 years old and like have this ancient wisdom on it.
Oh yeah, and this like ability to track the sun or whatever this centerfold thing does with the sun. Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and I feel like that's...
So, like, maybe there was Egyptians rolling up to the Sphinx, and they were like, oh, this is such a waste. This is so stupid.
Maybe. Or, like, in the Yucatan of Mexico, like, oh, Chichen Itza, no big deal. And now people are like... They've basically had to stop letting tourists up to Chichen Itza because tourists... Traffic has basically destroyed the rock formations. So... Yeah, definitely interesting to think about. Maybe we'll check in 3,000 years from now and let our listeners know.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this in the year 5,000, send us an email. Check out the
send us
check out the website.
Talk to us through your awesome time travel goggles or whatever is the new thing that's not email anymore. Email is going to be like snail mail in 5,000 years from now.
Good point.
Use whatever the new email is to contact us.
Send us a telegram.
No. Send us some sort of
a candygram.
Yeah, send us a candygram.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of tourism is just kind of ridiculous and dumb. That's kind of my concluding point.
Okay. I don't know if you're in Georgia. Check out the Georgia Guidestones.
No, or don't.
You know, make the decision for yourself.
Yeah, so we turned around and spent 2 hours driving back to Atlanta with a stopover at McDonald's for some chicken McNuggets. Shameful. And, yeah, listened to some terrible radio because our FM transmitter didn't work.
probably the least enjoyable part of that drive.
Yeah, overall, how did you feel about the day trip?
I thought it was enjoyable. I mean, it was nice because it was a little bit rainy, so we couldn't really have, like, hiking would have been super enjoyable. It was nice to get out of the city. I think the Georgia Guidestones are, pretty interesting in a couple 100 years when I'm still alive, because we're going to have that type of medical technology. I can tell people in the generations below that I saw them before they were popular.
Yeah, that seems like a long shot.
What did you think?
Yeah, it's just kind of like whatever. It was nice getting out of the city for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting though. It kind of, some of the times these things that become popular tourist attractions really have no, like,
meaning.
You go and you're like, okay, that was all right.
Yeah, I think that what we were talking about at the end is definitely a valid point, where it probably will become more of a popular tourist attraction as time goes on.
Yeah, and the mystery of it is kind of alluring. The confusion about what is going on in this guy's head when he decides to pay. I have no idea how much it would cost to get that much granite and get it carved out with all the writing in it. Find someone who's, it must be a very expensive project.
Yeah, and then moved and mounted, like they're pretty solidly in the ground.
Yeah, they would have needed a big tractor trailer to haul those things.
And I wonder if that's why they did it outside of a city, because they wanted to do it anonymously, and that'd be hard to get away with in a city. It's like put it in the middle of nowhere.
They pay the farm to have it there, and they did through an intermediary, not anonymous. Well, anonymously, but through an intermediary. So
okay, gotcha.
It wasn't like a middle of the night sneak it out.
So if you're interested in what the Georgia Guidestones say, we'll post that on the show notes at www.theworldwonders.com. And we'll also post a few other little tidbits about the Georgia Guidestones. There's a time capsule there, so we'll talk a little bit about that on the show notes. So check those out if you are interested. Check out Wikipedia if you want more. Come visit us in Georgia if you want to see them. We'll put some photos there as well.
Yeah, and so this episode was obviously an experimental one for us. We had, a little while ago, got our portable recorder, and we're like, oh, we should take this out and try to make an episode of us actually going to explore something. So that was really the motivation for even going to the Georgia Guidestones.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear what you think of it. If you found this new style interesting or terrible.
Yeah, let
atrocious.
us.
I don't know why you're still listening if you found it terrible. It's just
We're open to your feedback, whatever it is, though. So connect with us on Facebook at The World Wanders, or on Twitter, or reach out to us on our website. Once again, it's www.theworldwanders.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
Bye-bye.